Good evening, friends, and welcome to a late night edition of Crime Time with DutyRon. Guys and girls, you know the drill. I'm a retired New York City police detective, and if you like all things true crime related from that police detective's perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, so you'll get all things DutyRon and Ed Wallace when we are live or uploading another video. Hey, tonight I come to you live. I never go live this late. I'm usually in bed, but I was watching some of the local coverage out of Pocatello, Idaho, and I was listening to Nate Eaton from East Idaho News, my good friend, great journalist who covers the Chad Daybell, shallow Lori Vallow trial from the very beginning. And he was the reporter who rented a helicopter to fly over Chad Daybell's property as they were unearthing the children from his cemetery in the backyard, the pet cemetery. And when I heard and listened to the coverage, I said, wait a minute, I am a retired fugitive enforcement detective. I did extraditions for a living for a whole decade. So that's what my whole job function was, to extradite and go and pick people up and bring them back into New York. And I said, I gotta give a little bit of a coverage to this. So hello, and thank you for joining me late tonight on really an unplanned live stream. I want to say thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, and all the folks who positively engage here in this community. You guys are what makes it a great place. And we're always thinking about Josh, our producer, our friend. He's always in our hearts, and we're always thinking about him. So every live stream that I do, I'm always thinking, and everywhere I look, it's always Josh here. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Lori Vallow, and I like to refer to her as Shallow Vallow. She was extradited from the woman's correctional facility. She's, as we all know, serving convicted and serving the life sentences consecutively. She has no chance of ever seeing the light of day. She sidestepped the death penalty, but she's never going to see the light of day. But her ex-husband, Charles Vallow, brutally murdered, in July, on July 11th of 2019, in the Chandler condominium, actually private home. Her brother, Alex Cox, said that he came at him and tried to assault him with a baseball bat. We all knew that that was hogwash. And the Chandler Police Department, in my eyes, really flubbed that case, and they let Alex Cox walk away from this thing, and didn't lock him up. Ed and I did some coverage on that, and we were so pissed off about how that all went down. But let's take a listen to some of the news reports from today. Local, Nate Eaton was all over this thing, and some of the local reporters. So let's just play this little piece so you guys got a good understanding of what's going on with Shallow Vallow.
Well, Lori Vallow Daybell back in Arizona, and this time she's in custody. The so-called doomsday mom is already convicted of killing her 2 kids here in Idaho, and now she's facing 2 more conspiracy to commit first-degree murder charges in Maricopa County. Erica Stapleton, with our sister station in Phoenix, has more.
This has been a long time coming. The crimes Lori Vallow is accused of here in Arizona happened more than 4 years ago, and the drive to get her here, according to Sheriff Paul Penzone, took about 18 hours.
Lori Vallow Daybell booked into Maricopa County Jail. This video, provided by the sheriff's office without any sound, shows her being processed after an 18-hour extradition drive from prison in Idaho.
She'll be isolated in a high-security area, the Estrella jail.
Vallow is already serving 3 life sentences in Idaho for killing her children, Tylee and JJ, and also her role in the death of Tammy Daybell, her husband Chad Daybell's first wife. As for the charges in Maricopa County, she's accused of conspiring to kill her former husband Charles Vallow, who was shot and killed in Chandler in July 2019 by Lori's brother, Alex Cox. She's also accused of conspiring to kill her niece's ex-husband, who was shot at outside his home in Gilbert in October 2019. He wasn't hurt, but Lori's brother is also believed to be the shooter in that case too. He's considered a co-conspirator in these cases, but can't be charged because he died in December 2019.
Well, this is a relatively moderate-sized female, what kind of a threat can she be? She is as much, if not more, of a threat to the harm of others as any other dangerous criminal we've had in our custody.
Sheriff Paul Penzone said
She's
they
a
sent 4
convicted murderer.
deputies to extradite Vallow from Idaho. They opted to drive rather than fly due to weather concerns. They didn't have any issues and said Lori Vallow was even chatty.
So I understand that she was very sociable the entire trip, talked quite a bit.
She also asked the judge some questions during her first appearance after she was booked overnight.
Are those cases going to be combined, or are they going to be done separately?
Well, they are 2 separate cases.
This moment, Lori Vallow in Arizona custody, something Kay and Larry Woodcock have been waiting for.
Anything that comes out of her mouth is a lie.
Kay is JJ Vallow's grandma and Charles Vallow's sister and just wants justice.
Anybody who suffered a loss at the hands of an evil person like this, and I pray that they'll find peace.
Once these cases are finished here in Arizona, she will be returned to Idaho, where she will continue serving those life sentences. She'll be arraigned here in Maricopa County next week.
So I wanted to tell you quickly, transporting a 3-time convicted murderer, and it doesn't matter, male, female, whoever it is always a dangerous assignment. You never know who would get wind of an 18-hour drive. You can have an accident where your transport vehicle rolls over. You can have situations where on an 18-hour trip, the inmate, and this being Lori Vallow, is going to have to use the restroom. They're going to have to make stops. They're going to have to stop to fuel up. I don't know any transport vehicles that that have enough gas on board to travel 18 hours straight. So you have to stop. You have to make multiple stops. It's very dangerous, and flying definitely would have been the option. They talked about some type of weather condition and so forth, but anytime that we had these long trips like this, we would always fly. So again, Lori Vallow, very chatty. Of course she's going to be chatty. That's what her MO was. Remember when she was brought in and questioned with her daughter, who she ultimately murdered with Chad Daybell, and she was flipping her hair and being so friendly to those officers. I don't know, by a show of hands in the chat, how many of you guys remember that interview? It disgusted me when I saw her winning over the officer that was interviewing her. And I was just like, whoosh, it made me nuts when I saw that. But she did that on the ride here to Maricopa County. But she has to face the music. She has to face the music for all the crimes that she committed along the way. And, my takeaway from that day, and we saw tons of body cam footage of her being interviewed out in front. And she talked about going to a drive-through. I think it was Burger King or one of those fast food restaurants, and getting food for JJ. And she wasn't even concerned that albeit he was her ex-husband, or, in the process of, getting divorced from him, she didn't seem to give a rat's ass about what happened to poor Charles Vallow. And you know what? His brother Jerry and his entire family, they deserve justice, just the same way justice was served for Tammy and for JJ and Tylee. Charles Vallow is now in the process of getting justice in his death. And I see this going full steam ahead, and I wouldn't be surprised if Lori Vallow pleads not guilty just to drag it out longer. There's some people who are speculating that she's going to plead guilty, and she's just going to take it like a champ. I don't see her. I see her milking the cow. I see her milking this as a trip outside of the Pocatello, Idaho women's correctional facility she was in. She gets to have a new scenery and try to make friends with some of the corrections officers and some of the people that she's going to come into contact day to day. But she has those 3 life sentences. She's never going to see the light of day. But this is like a field trip for her. This is like This to her is just a way to get out of where she was, and it's just a change of scenery for her, so to speak. Let's take a look at what else I have here. Arizona. I want to play the arraignment because she asks a lot of questions of the judge. And by a show of hands in the chat, how many of you guys saw this arraignment? It's not a good quality. It's like a Zoom meeting, so it's not going to be a really good quality, but I'm just curious how many of you guys are following it by a show of hands here in the chat. I mean, we don't have a large audience tonight because, again, I never go live at this time, and not a lot of people were expecting this. So I know a lot of you guys will watch it on the replay, but yeah, Allison saw it, Cheryl, Vicky, ATS News says she hasn't seen it. Eileen is putting a 2 saying that she hasn't. So let's take a look at this because it was pretty interesting. She asked some questions, and she asked about if she'll have multiple attorneys, just some odd stuff. But let's just take a listen in.
2673.
All right. So Ms.
2673.
All right. So Ms. Vallow, you are appearing here on 2 cases. These are both grand jury warrants. What that means is that the grand jury here in Arizona has indicted you on 2 charges. The first case is CR 2022-001242-001. You're being charged in that case with 1 count of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. It is a Class 1 felony committed on October the 2nd of 2019. The second case is CR 2021-001704-001. In that case, you're also being charged with 1 count of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. It is also a Class 1 felony. That offense allegedly occurred on July 11th of 2019. Now, I do have to advise you of your right to have an attorney and the right to remain silent. I will appoint counsel for you in both cases. I have a court date coming up for you called the not guilty arraignment hearing. Give me just a second. That hearing is going to take place in the downtown Phoenix Superior Court in our Central Court building. And the date is going to be next Thursday, December 7th at 8:30 in the morning. In both cases, you've been extradited from the state of Arizona. You're currently under the jurisdiction of the Idaho Department of Corrections. That makes you non-bailable at this hearing. So you're not eligible for bail in either case. You do have your court date. A lawyer is going to be appointed for you. Do you have any questions?
Are those cases going to be combined, or are they going to be done separately?
Well, they are 2 separate cases, but they're going to be handled at the same hearing.
Okay.
Okay. So you can talk to your lawyer, but they are 2 separate cases, which means that you'd have 2 separate proceedings going forward if it goes to trial.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Howell?
Anybody catch on to how happy she was that it was going to be 2 separate cases? Because that, as she knows now, she's an expert at milking the cow. She now knows that it's going to take a long time for her to get these 2 cases heard. They're going to be heard separately. And she almost seemed happy. I mean, that was my takeaway. Allison, thank you for gifting the 5 memberships. Allison BD, always supporting, and thank you for being a channel member. She was pretty interesting about how happy she seemed when he confirmed to her that they weren't going to be combined and they're going to be 2 separate cases.
2 separate proceedings going forward if it goes to trial.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Howell?
Just 1 attorney, or more attorneys will be assigned?
Well, at this point in time,
her next concern was, is it more than 1 attorney, or is it going to be multiple attorneys? It's just more people for her to try to manipulate. But just like interesting questions that you would, not usually hear an inmate ask a judge. But now she's pretty much an expert in manipulating the system. And yeah, she's it's disgusting.
Just 1 attorney, or more attorneys will be assigned?
Well, at this point in time,
look, and she even laughed here. I mean, look, she's essentially flirting with this judge. I mean, he's not having it, but you have to look really hard to see it because this is really blurry. But let me see if I can make this a Hold on a second. It's only 2:40. She lets out this uncomfortable smirk and like, watch
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Vallow?
Just one attorney
right
or
here.
more attorneys will be assigned to?
Well, at this point
At
in
this
time,
point.
at this point in
Right there. Ugh, she's gross.
time, you're likely going to have the one lawyer represent you at this particular hearing. What the Maricopa County Public Defender does at this point in time with respect to who they assign for counsel for you or how many lawyers you have or anything like that, that will be between you and your lawyer.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
So you're saying that will I get to talk to them before that arraignment hearing, or will
She
just
wasn't
at that
done.
arraignment hearing, they'll be assigned?
Well, typically you do meet your lawyer at that arraignment hearing. Under the circumstances of this case, they may reach out to you before that hearing to have discussions with you. There is also a telephone number that you're going to have on your paperwork that will be able to connect you with the Maricopa County Public Defender's Office.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Vallow. I appreciate it.
Look at her. It's like she's like happy to be there, and this is fun for her. I don't know, man. I think gross is I'm being nice about saying it's gross, but interesting. So I want to go to the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. They did something interesting here, and I want to get your thoughts on this. How many times do you see county sheriff's office take a film crew, and there was somebody filming from their film unit? They have to have a unit that does filming and within their county jail and their central booking. When she was extradited and brought in, they had a camera crew following her like through the process. Now, I don't think that they do that for every inmate, but they were set up to do that with Lori here, Shallow Vallow. And she ate that shit up like it was like she was some kind of a superstar. So I'm going to play it. I want to just know how many of you guys seen this and how many of you guys thought it was a little odd. I personally thought it was odd. Some people might say, well, no, I don't think it was odd. But she's no celebrity. She's no star. And there was probably a reason behind it, a legal reason, or maybe some type of, to try to dot their I's and cross their T's so she can't say she was mistreated. But this is interesting to see this because, you don't get to see this often. So there's no audio to this. So I'll let it play and I'll give you some of my thoughts as we go along with this. And this is her arriving from the 18-hour trip from Pocatello, Idaho, where our good friends Dr. Ed Moskowitz and Julie, that's their hometown, Pocatello, Idaho. Let's just watch this. And there's no sound to it. I kind of wish there was audio to it, And they check her shoes and they go through all of her, like they do a pat down here. The female sheriff takes charge. She's in the scanner. They're looking through to see if she's got anything. Yeah, her hair is done for the ride, right? Isn't that funny? Curled and everything. ATS News, of course, the ladies keep paying attention to this. All right, so this is she changed out into the Maricopa County prison garb, and now she's going to walk through to get her mugshot photo taken. She's walking through where all the other inmates are waiting to get processed. And this is pretty standard right here. And there you have it. The mugshot photo of an insane, deranged demon. She's a demon. Her and Chad Daybell are both evil demons. And there it is. If that's not the look of crazy, I don't know what is. But that's a perfect mugshot. And I'm glad that they captured that because she looks like Psycho 101 right there. So take a good look at that. It's even hard to look at that picture. But yeah, doesn't do her much justice. Lori Shallow. I present to you Lori Shallow Vallow. Yeah, that's evil right there. She's a demon. She is a demon. Horrible, horrible human being. Thank you, Moonlight View. Thank you. Yeah, don't look into her eyes too long because she might get you. She might get you. Let's see. I have this is from Nate Eaton. This was from 12 hours ago. I love his coverage and I want to play it because it's only 3 minutes, but this was 12 hours ago. So it was earlier today. And he was talking about the process and the extradition. And the extradition process, this was easy. She waived extradition. She knew that she was going to get a chance to get out and get into a different facility, get new surroundings. And she was happy to go. She was happy to go. But let's take a listen to what Nate Eaton had to say because this was from 12 hours ago. And he
Hey everybody, Nate Eaton.
He puts a little different spin on it. And I love Nate. So let's take a listen to him. Who here is following Nate Eaton and East Idaho News? I'll put a 1 in the chat myself. I'm following him. I think he's awesome. And I'd love to get him to come on the channel, but he's always so darn busy. I got a better chance of him coming on to the channel, like maybe Lori Vallow coming on and doing an interview. But Nate's very busy, all kidding aside. But he's a good man.
Hey everybody, Nate Eaton. I wanted to come on here quick and let you know that Lori Vallow Daybell has been moved from Idaho to Arizona. She was booked into the Maricopa County Jail yesterday, the same day as Chad Daybell's hearing, which would have been Wednesday, November 29th. She was moved from Pocatello, the Pocatello Women's Correctional Center, and I checked with them, and she's no longer an inmate there, and she is now in Arizona. From what I understand, she will appear in court within possibly as early as today. Could be today or tomorrow on the initial charges. Of course, she's charged with 2 conspiracy to commit murder charges there in.
I just want to let you know, Maricopa County has 24-hour court, just like New York City and a lot of the big cities like, Miami, Chicago and Los Angeles. You have to run 24-hour courts. So arraignments happen all day and all night, 365 days. There's no shutting down the arraignment court. And that's what you basically saw with Lori Vallow. As soon as she came in, she went through that short little process, maybe took an hour or so max, and then she went straight in to see a judge. In some of the smaller jurisdictions, they don't have that running all the time. So she went down here to Maricopa County, and it's a 24-hour facility, court arraignment. They run 24/7.
Maricopa County for the deaths of Charles Vallow and Brandon Boudreaux, her former nephew-in-law. Lori has been in the Pocatello Women's Correctional Center since August. She was convicted, or she was sentenced at the end of July 31st, I believe, to life sentences, 3 life sentences in prison, no possibility of parole. She has been there for, August, September, October, November, 4 months now. And now she will face those charges in Arizona. Lori Vallow is 50 years old. Governor Brad Little, you might recall, last month signed an agreement with Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs to have her extradited, have Lori Vallow extradited back to Arizona. And sure enough, that happened this week. Unclear if Lori Vallow was flown to Arizona or if they drove her down. We're trying to get clarifications on that.
Yeah, this was 12 hours ago. We know that she was driven, but don't crucify the messenger. This was before they knew that they were driving her. So again, Nate Eaton at the time giving information that, he didn't have that information. Nobody knew.
What we do know is that Arizona paid for it. They paid for the extradition. They said they were going to pay for it, and that's what they did, one would assume. Also, the extradition order said that they would extradite her with no further formal extradition proceedings. And I take that to read meaning there wasn't going to be a lot of court proceedings back and forth. They just took her. According to the agreement, Idaho let them take her. So now what will happen is she will undergo court proceedings there in Arizona.
The Department of Corrections is who transported her. So Tink Mybell, the U.S. Marshals didn't transport her. It was the Idaho Department of Corrections, Pocatello, where she was, the State Department of Corrections. They're responsible to do the transportation, but they get reimbursed by Maricopa County. So that's what he was explaining there. He didn't say it directly like that, but I'm telling you, that's how it happens. She's custody of Idaho. She's not custody of Arizona. She's being held there pending a trial. So basically, she's still the responsible of Idaho. That's where she was sentenced, and that's where her 3 life sentences are, right as we speak right now.
Once that trial happens, if she's found guilty, then it's undetermined, I think, at the moment, where she'll stay for the rest of her life. If she's
going to stay in Idaho. Good to see you late night with DutyRon, Florida Pete. Great live stream the other night. Thank you for doing that. The Christmas lights, and everybody loves that. Joey Brooklyn too. He did a great one over in Diker Heights. If you haven't checked that out, go and check it out.
Life in prison in Arizona. Will she stay there or in Idaho? Some states, it's where, if you're charged in multiple states, it's wherever the original conviction is. So that would mean they bring her back here to Idaho, but maybe they work out an agreement where she stays there.
No, she'll be back in Idaho.
It's kind of convoluted, as you know, if you've been following this case. So Lori Vallow is in Arizona. We have her mugshot on eastidahonews.com if you want to check it out. She will. Well, we expect to see her in court, and we'll go through this whole process once again.
I'll just tell you quickly, if she's found guilty, which I hope she is in Arizona, she'll be sent back to Pocatello, in the state of Idaho. Will be the place where she sees out her final days. She will leave the prison in Idaho in a body bag when she finally meets her maker. So she'll die in prison. How that'll happen, who knows? May it be old age, maybe it be from an illness, may it be from an inmate getting a hold of her. Look, we had Derek Chauvin attacked in prison recently, stabbed. She's not a fan of the inmate population. She's a child killer. She is not some kind of superstar amongst the prison population. So, but that's where ultimately, it doesn't matter if she gets sentenced to another life sentence for killing Charles Vallow. She'll go back to Idaho and rot inside her cage. She'll rot inside of her cell until she becomes old and decrepit, and then she'll be taken out in a body bag.
We'll see if she decides to plead guilty. If she decides to take it all the way through trial, it will just be up to her and her attorneys. If you want to get caught up on what happened with Chad Daybell's trial, we've posted that, or his hearing yesterday. You can check it out.
So there's my good friend Nate Eaton. I love that guy. He does some great reporting. There's another little piece. I want to just take a peek at Nate from tonight. He did some stuff tonight. Hold on a second. Let me just see if I have this queued up right. I think I do. Yeah, so this is from tonight. He did like 40 minutes, what does he call it? Courtroom Insider. And if you're not if you're not subscribed to his channel, go and check it out.
Guilty.
And
that's that.
He's awesome because he sits and talks to you. Nate is like a friend. He's a reporter, but he's also like such a personable guy. You feel like you're speaking with your friend. It's not like he doesn't really give a lot of fluff. It's like he just talks to you. And that's what I like about him. He's got that same kind of style of how I do it, where I'm speaking to you guys, and it's just wonderful I listen to him all the time. So let's take a listen to a little bit of what he had to say. This is from tonight.
She gets sentenced probably to life in prison. I don't know what, maybe another sort of sentence. She could walk in there on the 7th of December and say guilty. And then they set a sentencing hearing, and potentially within 3 months, it's done.
I don't think she's saying
and
guilty.
The sheriff in Arizona said they then sent her back here to Idaho to serve her life sentence here. So that would
all right. So there you have it. I mean, I didn't even listen to this tonight. I just saved it because I saw he was live. So this is the most current, because this was just from about an hour ago. And so Nate just said here that he spoke to the sheriff in Pocatello in Idaho, and he said, if she gets sentenced there, just as I was saying a few minutes ago to you guys, that if she gets sentenced in Arizona and found guilty of any of the charges that's being brought forward to her, she'll come back ultimately to Idaho. So let's listen to that again.
70 days, give or take a few days, meaning there will be a trial for Lori Vallow Daybell within the next year. The other possibility is she just pleads guilty.
That's not possible.
She pleads guilty.
She won't do it.
And that's that. She gets sentenced probably to life in prison. I don't know what, maybe another sort of sentence. She could walk in there on the 7th of December and say guilty.
I doubt it.
And then they set a sentencing hearing, and potentially within 3 months, it's done. And the sheriff in Arizona said they then sent her back here to Idaho to serve her life sentence here. So that would be fascinating if the Arizona thing goes short. Given the fact that Lori Vallow Daybell in the past has not really done stuff like that, it's a good chance she will be
pleading not guilty.
You know, this will have another trial within the next year.
Yep.
And that'd be wild if Chad's trial's in April and May, then Lori has a trial in Arizona in like June and July. Excuse me. So let me see if we can get this audio for you one more time. You want me to try it, or do you think? Oh, now we're not even seeing a picture.
He had some.
Okay.
Somebody told me he had a lot of technical difficulties.
We have it on our YouTube channel of Lori appearing before this judge. Head over there and you can. We'll play that for you if Jordan gets it up here, but if not, that'll be okay. We can come back to that.
Here, this is a good question. Eileen, thank you for the question. Eileen says, can she communicate with Chad? No, she can't. She cannot communicate with him. So that's a big no. I don't care who tells you what, but I know for a fact that her communication list is obviously monitored, and there's no inmate to inmate calling going on. Chad's an inmate and she's an inmate. So
now I want to talk. So there's the status on Lori. I know a lot of you have questions on her. One of the big questions we had was, what's that?
Oh, sorry.
What about the official who said that they were going to wait and keep Lori here until all of the Idaho stuff was done? Well, that changed, obviously, or it was someone that may have spoken to a reporter who didn't quite know the plan, didn't quite know the procedure for what it was going to be, because there was some talk that they were going to keep her here, but that's not the case. While she's in Arizona, the appeal process here could be put on hold, could be placed on hold. By the way, I reached out to her attorneys here today. They had no comment about what's happening there. So it could be put on hold, or they can continue to, move things along. By the way, if you need to switch anything over.
What I like too about Nate is that he gives you everything that he has, and he lets you know that this is what it is as of now. It's all subject to change, but I love that it's like, again, it's like a friend. It's like you're listening to a friend chat it up with you. And that's why I like Nate. And there's no fluff. There's no shock and awe with him. And he's got his engineer there. He was having some kind of technical difficulties, according to the person who shared this with me. She said I love Nate. I want you to take a listen to it. But he had some technical issues. So, all right, here we go. This is good stuff. Yeah, Nate's the real deal, Evie. That's a good one right there. Let me highlight that. Nate's the real deal. He's the real deal, Holyfield.
Very soon, we'll be doing this every night before we know it. This courtroom in Lori's first court appearance in Arizona. Here we go.
All right. So Ms. Vallow, you are appearing here on two cases. These are both grand jury warrants. What that means is that the grand jury here in Arizona has indicted you on two charges. The first case is CR 2022-001242-001. You're being charged in that case with one count of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. It is a Class 1 felony committed on October the 2nd of 2019.
I almost don't want to listen to this again. I'm going to fast forward it because she's ugh. Let's fast forward and listen to what the sheriff has to say. So this is a news conference by the Maricopa County Sheriff. I didn't listen to this, so I don't know what he has to say. But I couldn't listen to that again. I couldn't. I don't have a throw-up bucket here, so I couldn't listen to it again.
We sent 4 deputies, more predictable and more within our control. That
2 hours later, nice. So here we go.
In custody at one of the prisons. We sent 4 deputies, more predictable and more within our control, that if we were going to transport her, that we wouldn't have to deal with any kind of weather conditions or air travel challenges. So our deputies left on the 27th for Idaho, arrived there.
So notice, and this will be the last time I stop this. Notice that this is all being done after she successfully was brought back into custody in Arizona. They're never going to give this plan up. And we saw this with Brian Kohlberger. We didn't know what time he was getting on the plane and over in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. We didn't know any of the stuff until he was in the air. And even when he was in the air, it was kind of, because it's all about safety. It's all about custody and control of the prisoner. You don't want to lose a prisoner. You don't want to have anything happen. So he's giving you the breakdown of what they did in the travel here with Vallow, and he's doing it after the fact, which is the right thing.
Weather conditions or air travel challenges. So our deputies left on the 27th for Idaho, arrived there, stayed for a day to prepare, and brought her back. We sent 2 extradition deputies, a supervisor, and 1 deputy from our K-9 division, but it's just because she's a female deputy. We want to make sure there was a female accompanying suspect Vallow in her travel back. It was about an 18-hour.
Notice they don't refer to her as Vallow Daybell. It's suspect Vallow. She won't be called Vallow Daybell there. It's going to be Lori Vallow. And I wish they could change it to Lori Shallow.
Trip. In my statement, as you saw, I talked about the fact that we do about 250 plus extraditions every year. So this is not new for them. The uniqueness or maybe the circumstances involved in this particular case are very high profile and much to the interest of our local and national audience. I don't want to diminish it. It is what we do, as I stated, and we do it very well, whether it is her or any other.
Hey, does anybody see this? Does this look like a knife right here in the middle of the screen? Does that look like a black, like a steak knife? Huh. Am I just going crazy? Is it late? Or am I seeing things? That looks like a freaking knife. Right down here to the sharp blade. What the hell? Anybody see that? Or am I just going crazy? And that's Nate Eaton having feedback and double audio. It's not me. Crazy late night, says Pete. It does, right? Oh my God, says Evie. Look at this thing right here. Huh. Things that make you go, Isn't that weird?
Fugitive who's wanted in the state of Arizona. We're going to facilitate transfer into our custody so the prosecutor's office can prosecute them effectively. She had her initial appearance at about 2 a.m. when she was remanded without bond. So the case will now be in the hands of the county.
I can't even get over it. And when I pause it, this red line going through here, it looks like a little drip of blood on it. Now I'm getting really crazy, but this is just a red line going through the bottom, and on the tip right here is the red line. Pretty freaky. Interesting.
I just want to make sure you heard from me the status of it, and I'm happy to answer a few questions if they're related to this case. We'll get it to you of bringing her into the jail where you get a good look at the process, the initial process of her custody. So I don't, there's not a whole lot more depth to it than that. I just want to make sure you heard from me the status of it, and I'm happy to answer a few questions if they're related to this case.
Sure.
I'll start with
I was going to say, will she be kept in any sort of segregated situation, or is she going to be in just closed?
Yeah, no, that is a good question. She will be. She's deemed to be high security, so she'll be isolated in a high security area, the straight jail.
Tell us what goes into a process such as this. You've dealt with high-profile inmates in the past. That's not new, but obviously this planning has been going on, I would assume, for some time.
It has, and we wanted to make sure that it was. During my tenure as sheriff, I feel like our focus has always been about being really fundamentally sound and less about the bells and whistles. And the men and women who put the planning and preparation took everything into consideration. As I said, we had challenging weather conditions. The last thing we wanted to do was try to fly and get stuck in an airport, where suddenly now we're in a space where there's a lot of community members and others, and it takes an extensive period of time. If we're going to travel that road, we need to make sure that we have the appropriate vehicles. As I said, we sent a female.
Who here is just focused on that knife? Like, I know it's not a knife, but oh my God, that's horrible.
Female deputy to make sure that we had a female deputy accompanying a female inmate. We sent those from our FATE detail, and extraditions facilitated this because we're the best at managing any kind of transfer of custody or apprehension of those deemed to be dangerous. And make no mistake about it, sometimes I think we look at a person and judge them by appearance, and we go, well, this is a relatively moderate-sized female. What kind of a threat can she be? She is as much, if not more, of a threat to the harm of others as any other dangerous criminal we've had in our custody. So we figure out the entire route, map the challenges, where we're going to stay, how we make sure that our employees get the rest necessary to come back safely. I think it was an 18-hour drive back. Is that correct? About 18 hours? Yeah. So we'll call it a planning an extensive road trip that just happens to include bringing back a dangerous fugitive.
Can you clarify?
So I've driven up past Albany from New York. It's like Schenectady, Albany, but I've gone up to Niagara Falls, and I've taken a plane within the state of New York because it's just too far of a trip. It's too far of a drive. There's too much fatigue involved. And when you have that 18-hour road trip, I mean, that's dangerous. It's dangerous, but it's commonly done in some of the rural areas. We here in New York City would never do that. We would fly up. Jennifer Nobles, good to see you. Kitty KU, Debbie A, Cheryl F, Black Rose, Joey Brooklyn, Lake Lizard, Allison, Jen Best, Ellie Rose, L Rose, Teacup Rose. Thank you for being here. Beamer 650. Let's see what else Nate has to say after this. Oh, he's having audio.
And he also said she was very chatty, very, very talkative.
Shocker.
Now that she's in the Maricopa County Jail, many of you have pointed out it's the same facility where Jodi Arias was.
Yeah.
She's the woman who killed the man several years ago, stabbed him to death in the shower. It was real bloody and awful, and she actually thinks she had 2 trials. I didn't follow it that close, but Lori is in that same jail. They used to allow cameras in there to do interviews with inmates. I just received word that Lori is not doing any interviews at the moment. They asked her if she talked to me. She said no, but Lori has communicated to me in the past that she will talk one day. So we'll see when that happens. Okay, so that's.
I hope he gets the interview because really, like, you know, she won't talk to him now, but in the future, I think that she will because she's done. Her life is over. You know, she's a lifer in prison. So she may very well talk to him because she loves to soak it up, and that would be a bombshell interview for Nate Eaton. I hope he gets it. He deserves it. But you know, anything that she provides is just going to be hogwash. It's going to be lies and bullshit and deceit. So she's not going to provide anything but a couple of hair flips and some bullshit is what she's going to provide. But anyways, I want to say thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm going to end this now because I got to get up early in the morning to go to work, and I'm already way past my bedtime. But this has been coverage from my perspective as a fugitive enforcement division extradition detective. I've done so many of these, and I've been with so many different murderers and different kinds of bad people, guys and girls, and I've made these trips. And it's a part of the job that you have to do, and it's what Lori Vallow went through, and she soaked it up and loved it. But on behalf of DutyRon and Ed Wallace and the whole Crime Time DutyRon community, I thank everyone for coming on no notice whatsoever to listen to me talk with you about my thoughts on Vallow. And you know what? Jerry, Charles Vallow's brother, and the whole family, their side, and you know, everyone that's friends and extended family of Charles Vallow, this is the day they've all been waiting for, you know. And I'm hoping and praying that justice is served, and it's served swiftly onto Lori Vallow, because we knew from the get-go when this all went down that she had everything to do with this, and her brother, and you know, Chad Daybell, equally as demonic as Lori Vallow. They're really, really sick people, and they don't deserve to be walking around in society. And anything, when you talk about extreme beliefs, it doesn't matter about the religion, but anything in an extreme way becomes dangerous at times. More times than not, becomes deadly. So if you're around anyone who is, you know, has these extreme beliefs and is talking things don't sound right to you, be very, very wary of it and stay safe. So guys, on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, I want to wish you guys a good night. Stand by for a message from our cop team. Thank you to the replay viewers, the mod squad, and rest in peace, Josh. I miss you, brother. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.